Hi everyone, welcome to Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. Joined by my cast today of people. We had a couple of people that dropped out, so what we need is you to help us in the comments with your picks. And what we're going to talk about today is great watches that no one remembers. And I'll talk a little bit about where I came up with the idea. But before we do that, let's do a wristwatch check. Mark, do you want to kick us off? What are you wearing?
I am still wearing my Mido Ocean Star GMT that I picked up and was wearing on Tuesday for the Tuesday live stream. Very nice modern traveler GMT with a hint of Pepsi to it with the red band at the bottom. So I'm loving it.
Awesome. Cool. And first time on the Sunday Social, Bobby. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, finally,
Welcome to the madhouse.
Thank you. Yeah, no, the kids are with the in-laws. So usually they did go on Saturday, but they're back by now. But since they don't have school tomorrow, we got an extra day, Mrs. Legs and I, to be kid-free for a night. So getting all the sleep that we can. Hey, and so I'm here. And you've been so graceful. You've been so gracious, Sam, to come on to my stream. I really wanted to pay you back by coming on, but we finally got here. So I got my a new Zin T50 that came in the mail this week. Very excited to get a Zin diver back in the collection. And I basically started off my channel when I after a few months, I really discovered German watches and got into them and had a pretty decent collection, in my opinion, of affordable German watches. And then I got the Rolex bug and sold everything out. Anyway, so I'm back on German watches. I'm back.
Awesome. Is that quartz? Is that auto or is it quartz?
No, it's auto. It's auto.
Oh,
yeah, yeah. You're thinking of the U2. That's a quartz diver. But no, this is auto. This is a new model, came out a few months ago, and now they're delivering it. So excited about it.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Thanks. Seiko Todd, what are you wearing?
Seiko Todd always has two watches. Well, mostly. So first off, the ubiquitous. There we go. Obviously, this is the last year of the 1861. 2021, I believe I got this. And so professional moon watch, absolutely.
Awesome.
And then my Seiko I've been wearing the John Player Special 6138. There we go.
Yay.
Cool.
That's one you like, Sam, I know.
I do like it.
Yep. John did this one for me too. And John Sachs, expert restorer of Seiko and others things. And so, yeah, been
it looks so sharp, that John Player, especially you got to be careful not that you don't cut your finger on it, surely.
Like this one. So the story on this. So I'm moving my household. So we're gonna move to a house on a lake in Virginia, and I reach into my toiletries bag, and what's sitting straight up is my 5-bladed razor.
Ooh.
Oh,
so I just I'm gonna make everyone cringe. Sorry about that. Yep. So
yeah,
in that razor blade.
Have you been watching? This is a total tangent, but have you been watching Clarksons Farm on Amazon Prime?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's awesome. It's probably the best thing that Jeremy Clarkson's done since Top Gear, and I'm like being 100% serious. It's the only show that Amazon got into like the top 50 shows or something, of all. And he basically. It's a fly on the wall documentary sort of him setting up and running a farm. Anyway, there's a scene where he's making crisps on like one of their mandolin things. Anyway, you'll have to watch it for but it's and it's good watch spotting as well, because he's got a good watch collection of like Breitlings. He has the Omega Super Ocean, not Super Ocean, sorry, Seamaster.
Or the Planet Ocean.
I think it's a Planet Ocean.
Planet Oceans, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's good watch spotting as well. So he's got all the farm equipment and stuff. I highly recommend it.
And if you've ever seen Harry's Garage, Harry Metcalf, if you were a fan of motoring magazines in the UK, he founded Evo magazine. And he's now a farmer, and he's pretty much the farmer next door to Clarkson.
Yeah.
He's a total motorhead, but he has the farmer's Panerai, a couple of Rolexes, and so on. So yeah, the farmers in that part of the world are doing rather well, I think.
I guess so.
Well, you should watch the show. Actually, it's very interesting. Because I wasn't a fan of the Grand Tour, so I'm glad that he's doing something that I like watching. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm wearing the new Grand Seiko, the quartz one. So
nice.
A bit of reflection there. Anyway, theme of the show is what was it? Great watches that no one remembers. So we've each got a lot of picks. Mark went above and beyond the assignment, so Mark's got a lot of them. But we
had back to you.
Yeah, so we had a couple of people that that dropped out. So unfortunately, Dave at Scottish Watch was going to be on, but he couldn't make it. He's been traveling all day. So let us know your picks as we go through this in the comment section. And if we've got time at the end or as we go through this, we'll start picking them up. We'll pick them up live. So let's kick this off. Actually, we'll kick it off, Mark. We'll kick it off with you because you did such a stellar job of the assignment. Your first one was the Thelonious Monk. Thelonious Monk.
If you are a fan of Terry Pratchett, there's a book he does about, I think it's called Soul Music. And there's a whole bunch of musician jokes in soul music. So the Velvet Underground became the surreptitious fabric, and Thelonious Monk became felonious cleric. Anyway, so this is an Oris Atelier watch, and they did a series of watches inspired by great jazz musicians.
Oh, awesome.
I think this was the last one, and certainly, my opinion, the nicest. It seemed to appear and then disappear from memory. And it's one of those watches I wish I'd bought when it came out. Part of the Oris Atelier series, which always loses out to the Aquis and the Divers 65. It seems no one knows about the Atelier series. Very simple, very elegant dress watch. It has... Basically, it's a Oris modified Solita movement. And then why is it Thelonious Monk? The minute track has one extra beat to it, which is part of what Thelonious Monk's music was known for, its asymmetrical, unusual beats. And it's just a beautiful piece of Oris watchmaking that appealed to the cognoscenti and has just vanished from public memory. But it's a beautiful piece of watchmaking.
Yeah. Did anybody else, Bobby, have you ever seen this watch before?
I'm aware of this watch. I've never seen it in person, but I am aware of this particular release. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is a pretty good one, isn't it? It definitely is a great watch that nobody knows, or certainly I didn't know.
Well, I don't know whether this is a great watch that people have forgotten or a great watch that nobody knew about.
Yeah.
But this is just a beautiful piece of Oris. This is when Oris was making good watches.
Oh. How long ago was this released?
Yeah,
I forgot. It's 4, 5, maybe 6 years ago now.
So it wasn't. Yeah, I didn't think it was longer than I thought. Yeah, I remember when it came out.
It's certainly pre-COVID, and it's probably a couple of years pre-COVID.
Yeah. They still offer it? Is it still? I guess it's still.
No, it was a limited edition. Okay. You can still get them. You can still find them on eBay, and they're not that expensive. But it's one of those made you wish you'd bought, not because it's going to gain value, just because it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about Oris, right? I respect Oris. I'm not necessarily a big fan of their releases or what they have there in their catalog, but they will do something like this, right? They'll do a Thelonious Monk watch. They'll do a Roberto Clemente, Hank Aaron. You know what I mean? They do these kind of like really cool collabs with some of these foundations and release these nice looking watches, right? I mean, those going back to the Clemente and now the Hank Aaron, those pointer dates, really tasteful looking Oris watch. If I was going to get an Oris, that's that line is what's most appealing to me. But credit to Oris for doing these kind of pieces, which is very cool.
Yeah, you have to look outside the dive watches and prepare to spend time in the atelier section, because that's where they do the really nice stuff.
Yeah, that was a great one. Great choice there. Seiko Todd, you're up next. I think this is a good pick, and these are actually still available. This is the Recraft, the entire series.
The entire series. They're still available. This is the prices. That's the Seiko website, right? Yeah.
Yep.
When they came out with these, I think it was 2017. It's a nod back to it's a combination. It's like a reinterpretation of a lot of their vintage rally divers and other watches from the late 1960s, early 1970s. So you see the one there, the M92 with the crazy green and gold going on. And the blue dial ones, actually, I've held the one on the left. I've held its green one. I really like the green dial version of that. And the dials, again, since they're Seiko, are done so well. But it was kind of, I don't think they really made it in the real world. If you go in Joma's shop, you can get them for half the price that they're showing here on the Seiko website.
Yeah.
I really think Seiko did a great job trying to bring these back. They're really nice watches in the flesh. They're a little too big. That's part of the problem. I think they're closer to 42, 43 millimeters, at least like the C cushion, cased ones. They're a little too big for what they need to be, which may have been part of the problem. But it was a great learning experience, because now we have the newest one that they've done right, which is the get the right SRP K17. So that's part of the just came out this year, and I think it's a home run, because they actually brought back a rally diver in the original configuration of a rally diver, and the color combinations, the size, the chiclet bracelet, everything they've done with it are fantastic. The other weird thing too about these, though, is that this uses the 7S26 movements, which I thought Seiko discontinued for 4R36, but these still have the old. If you scooch down there, you have the old SKX movement in these. Why, I don't know. I thought that those were gone, but they still seem to be using them.
Yeah, so I have seen one of these in the wild. One of the VPs at my work wore one of these, and I asked him about it, and he said, "Oh, I like it, but it's running a bit fast." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's likely that it's magnetized, because I think the 7S26 only had to hear the word magnet, and it was magnetized." So, it's a shame. They are good in real life, but that movement always put me off. There was no chance I was getting one.
That movement is why I got rid of all my Seikos and have never bought another one.
Yeah.
What?
On a good day, it ran 20 seconds fast and it wasn't magnetized. It was just I can't be bothered. It's that put me off Seiko forever.
Well, that's a very entry level movement. They even have the display case backs on these, which is one of those cases where don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't. It's just a really it's just not pleasing at all. But
you spend money on a better movement and lose the display case back.
Because that is a winner, that one.
That's the green one I like, the Tono case green one. I love it. It looks great. I think it's pretty cool. It's kind of retro, but it has some modern vibes to it, especially with the brown strap. Again, shop, you get it for $120.
I think they do those display backs on these models for the non-watch geeks, right? You know what I mean? Your average Joe citizen who's just buying one watch and says, "Oh, cool." I mean, I could see a movement. But for us, even the Seiko 5s, a lot of them, just let's save some thickness on the case and not see the movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For the most part. It's like a movie set, isn't it? Where it looks like New York from the front, and then round the back, it's just all sticks holding it up.
Right.
That's another great pick. Bobby, have you ever seen one of these in person? Have you ever?
Yeah, I've seen these in person. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good. They're good looking pieces. You know what I mean? No doubt. If if you're not into watches, or if you are into watches, I mean, it's really an inexpensive way to get something that looks kind of good. Yeah.
Yeah, they do look classy. They definitely do look classy.
They look good, and these make great Macy's watches. So if you go to Macy's, you'll see these as an example.
And on their website, you can get 35% off here, and you know what I mean. Like, so yeah. These are great Macy's pickups for sure.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. That's another good pick, Todd. So then next up, Bobby, we've got your first one, which is a Frank Muller.
Ooh.
Yeah. So so I grew up right outside of New York City, right, and going in and out of New York, and even for a time working in Manhattan in the probably early aughts. Is it early aughts, 2000s, early 2000s? And so, if you're near anybody who was in finance, I felt like I saw so many Frank Mullers, and it was like the hot watch then, right? I mean, we came from an era like in the 80s and 90s or especially in the 90s, where, I mean, the only watches I knew were Rolex and Tag, and that's because Tag was, they marketed everything. I mean, they were great at marketing, but now when you going into some of these some of these banks, you saw these Frank Mullers, and I like them. I love them. I mean, it just brings me back to that time. And one of the ones that I really like was the Master Banker, and here you have a couple of time zones here, and it wasn't really meant from my understanding, it wasn't really meant as a travel watch. It was more to follow, like, maybe wherever markets were closing, right? You could set it to the London Exchange if you're in New York City, and then set it to maybe the Tokyo Exchange as well. And so you can have a good idea of when those markets were closing. And I just thought it was a really, really neat watch. And at the time, like I said, Frank Muller was hot. Now, gone through some rough times with the Master of Complications, as he would like to refer himself to. But you can still pick these up on eBay. A lot of great deals coming out of Japan on eBay for somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000. I may just pick one up because it's nostalgic to me, and I just love the way it looks. I just like Frank Muller. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, especially with the tonneau shape, but like, this watch, the crazy hours, which is pretty hefty price still, and the Casablanca, I think these were great watches at the time that I think a lot of us have forgotten, and some of us probably want to forget.
Yeah, I like this. They did was it called the Crazy Hour or something? And
yeah, the crazy.
Yeah,
so the Casablanca model had a Crazy Hour. The Long Island had a Crazy Hour, and that was a really, really cool complication. You still can't find. I mean, those are still pretty pricey. I mean, even some of the older ones. I mean, if you find one for under 10 these days, good on you. They might be there, but yeah, they're pretty pricey.
Yeah. So do you want to explain how this worked for anyone that's not familiar with it?
So just think of like a regular jumping hour, right? It would just jump to the 1 o'clock, and then it will jump once it goes around the minute hand. It will go jump down to the 2 o'clock, which is at the 6 o'clock position, right? And then at 3 o'clock, it will jump up to the 3 o'clock at the 11 o'clock position there. So it was just a really different way of demonstrating time, just kind of cool.
Yeah, it was. I've not seen one of these in person, but with the second I heard about it, I was amazed by it. And there's people it has a dedicated fan base, doesn't it, Frank Muller? I know a few collectors that.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, I would say that they definitely do have a dedicated fan base. I mean, like, it's not a lot, but I mean, they do exist, right? They do exist for sure.
Because I was on a. Yeah. Sorry, Bobby.
No, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I was going to say I was on a live stream with Paul Thorpe and his friend Dan, and they were saying that Frank Muller was the Richard Mille of its day. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, I mean, you could see I could see how you could make that kind of comparison because of the tonneau shape and whatnot. I it's hard for me to remember. I just remember a lot of guys that I know in finance had Frank Mullers, and that I wanted one. Now, I don't recall. I wasn't around a lot of watch collectors at the time, so I don't know what the watch community had thought about that in particular. So I won't speak to that. But I would just say, like, at the time, in that sort of industry that I was surrounding myself in, this is a very popular brand to own.
Yeah, I've always liked them. I was thinking too that maybe the modern comparison in a way is like you were talking about in terms of I just lost it. The one everyone hates, Richard Mills. There we go. Had to get out there, but
That's all Hubler.
I don't think anyone this created the controversy when these came out. I mean, this is really some high horology that they put together, and these are usually precious metal, right, Bobby? I don't know if they made many in stainless.
No, there's plenty of stainless steel versions of it.
Okay.
And when I was saying like you could find these for 2 or 3, I mean, I'm talking about the stainless steel versions. I think what got Frank in trouble, right, and why the brand was looked down upon, was that yes, I mean, he called himself the master of complications, and there were some pieces that were, probably deserving of that. He probably deserved that moniker. But then there's a lot of pieces, like a lot of these watches that that he was putting out. Most of it, I mean, you had just 28, 24, or any kind of like ETA, like nothing really special done. You had the case back closed, so you didn't really know what was going on underneath. So I think like a lot of people felt a little hoodwinked. But I mean, like when he was on, I mean, there was pieces that he created where he really, the talent was there, and you could see the greatness of the brand. But those were a little bit fewer and far between, though, for my taste. I wish he did more. Anyway, I mostly like aesthetics on watches too. You know what I mean? Like I respect movements and I can get into that. But I mean, if it looks good, I'm gonna like it, and I'm gonna make up excuses why I like it. So Frank Muller was one of those.
Yeah. That's a great pick. Awesome. Okay, let's go to, before we do that, we've had a couple that have come in. So James is saying that he thinks in 15 to 20 years, either Ming or Kurno Tokyo will be great watches that few people remember. Sure. And then Sympathy for Bezel is saying Tudor Heritage Chrono. And then the Seiko Shogun. Interesting. Cool. Okay, well, next go up to, where are we? We're going to go to, I'm going to do me. So this next watch is the reason I actually thought of this as a subject, because I got an email from Timex. And they basically, I'm going to do a video on this, but they're doing a recycled watch program. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I went on there, and what they've done is if you send them their watch, they'll pay for the shipping and everything. They'll refresh the watch and then they'll sell it. So what they've done is they when they first launched it, there was a load of watches, like old Timex watches on there that they were selling as new. And I picked one up for basically $18, which is this. Well, hang on, I'll just go full screen on this one. There's a picture of it, but which was this. I spotted this straight away, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And it's actually one of the, I think it's a famous watch or a great watch that has been forgotten, and it's the Timex Datalink. This is what it looked like on there. So it's called Rewound, and if you see it, I paid $18.75 for it. This is like new old stock condition. I was absolutely amazed by it. The band is almost unworn. The reason why this watch is so important is it was one of the very early smartwatches that would sync wirelessly to a computer long before the Apple Watch, and one of the very few watches that NASA authorized for space travel. And there's plenty of images of people training in space flights or on the International Space Station. Here's a couple of guys. So we've got the old Todd's Speedmaster there, and there is a Datalink watch that another astronaut is wearing. So they did actually go into space. And I think it's this is what kind of spurred it, was a great watch that kind of no one remembered. And this was a line that they ran from the late 90s. This one must be, I guess, is 2000, because this one's actually advertising the Pentium 4 processor. So I don't know if this was actually Intel gave this away or whether it was a promotion for them, but usually they're co-branded as Microsoft. So yeah, great watch that no one remembers. I didn't realize actually that's the wrong side photo. But anyway, but yeah, so I would check this out. They've actually sold all of them out already. So if you go on here, they've got a load of old Timex watches, but people kind of got wind of it and they've been buying them all up. So yeah, so there you go. Did anybody,
pretty amazing.
else? Yeah.
Well, did you have to pay shipping, or did that include shipping?
It was $25 with the shipping.
Okay. I don't know how they can do it that cheap. That's amazing.
Well, so you send it they'll pay the postage. If you've got old watches, and apparently they're going to expand it to all watches. It doesn't have to be Timex watches. Yeah, so interesting. And what was cool with it as well is that I'll save this for the review so you watch it. It also came with the original floppy disk as well, which I was amazed by. 3.5-inch floppy disk. Classic. But I'll pass it to panels. Does anybody else remember these Datalink watches when they came out? 1996 time they were to like 2000, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you remember?
I remember hearing about them. I don't know if I ever saw one.
Yeah. I've had a couple. I have done a review on my channel. They did ones with metal bracelets, and I've done a few, but this is the first one I've seen branded with Intel. My theme for my watches that I picked are all like 90s nostalgia, I think, most of them. So
yeah.
But yeah, so that was.
I remember these well because that was when I was working and I was running, and I ended up picking up Iron Man watches.
Yeah,
my running watch, not this one, because I think at the time it was like, oh, that's expensive.
Yeah, I think they were. A colleague of mine, I sent him a picture of it because we were talking about old IT tech. And he actually said that he was going to buy one of these for his first half marathon, but the price put him off. I'm not sure how much they were at the time, but it was more expensive than a standard one. And you had to have an old CRT monitor it flickered, and that's how it basically uploaded the data. There you go. So that was my first pick. I've indulged myself far too much on my pick, so I'll quickly switch to Mark. Here you go, Mark. This is your pick, the Christopher Ward C7 Apex.
Oh yes, my favorite ever Christopher Ward. And you've seen me wear it on the stream. I know the watch dates from 2018. It was their first experiment with truly modern design, first experiment with partial skeletonization, uses a hand-wound version of their SH21. If you ever go to the Christopher Ward showroom in Maidenhead, this is one of the 2 or 3 watches they have large prints of on the wall. Was their entry into GPHG in 2018 as well. A very, very lovely watch with the nicest caseback I think you've ever seen on a Christopher Ward. The strap that came with it had grey stitching, so I immediately put mine on a strap with red stitching to match the bridges and the power reserve. But it is a very, very lovely thing, and that caseback is for the ages. I think that should go down in memory. But it's even within the Christopher Ward cognoscenti, these are getting forgotten.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame. I mean, they only made 50 of them, so it wasn't a very big seller, but this is the watch that started the revolution that brought us the Belcanto, when they suddenly said, let's do something special, and we'll price it the Christopher Ward way, but it's not going to be your $800 Christopher Ward, which it certainly wasn't. But this is the watch that started the revolution. Definitely a favorite of mine.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And before you show me yours, I mean, and I'm a fan of Christopher Ward. I didn't know this watch existed, so I think that fits right into the theme. Really good job there. Yeah, I like that one. Awesome. And then next one, we're gonna head over to Todd, and your one is, in fact, your one is an entire collection of watches, and that is the re-release of the Universal Genève.
Yes, evidently. So, long story short, most people probably know just how awesome Universal Genève was back in the day. Founded in the 1800s, a long time ago. They're really well known for their pole router, of course, and the chronographs that they built in the 50s and 60s. And then I guess they were a victim of the quartz crisis too. They were bought by Stellax, which I assume is the same company that we know from the bracelet manufacturer. in Hong Kong. And if you go to their site, universal.ch, so it's a Chinese website, that's where you may be on now. You can get,
Yep.
you can see these. They're not, and the resolution is poor on the pictures. It's like something that you would have digitized years ago and try to put a picture of. But to my knowledge, I've never ever seen these watches. I was looking on Chrono 24. I did find a night. I'm looking at it now. One from 1989, which I didn't think they were still in business then either, or building watches at least. But you see that 2005 renewal, 2008, and then there's been some pretty good a couple good stories on them from some of the watch blogs. Like I think, let's see, who is this? Rescapement did a news article on it, and it was updated in 2019, but doesn't seem to be anything about them. So the big question is, what's happened? Where have they gone? What happened to this re-release? Has anything ever been sold? I'd love to know if they've actually sold some watches at one point. It's just big. I'm just very, very curious on where they are now.
Yeah.
The one here I'm looking at is ugly as sin too. It's one of these re-release. I guess it's pre-release if it's really 89. I don't know where that came from. Unless somebody has. See that? Look at that. That is a gorgeous, gorgeous chronograph. What? And why they can't? It'd be lovely if they could. Somehow find somebody who's really willing to bring back the glory.
It's we've got a little correction. Bill's correcting us. Bill's saying a CH is actually for Switzerland.
Oh, Switzerland.
Not Chinese.
Thank you, Bill. I blew that. I assumed that it was that way just because of the fact that they're owned by a Hong Kong company.
Do you know what CH stands for?
No.
It does stand for something. It's Canton Helvetia.
Well,
and Helvetia or Helvetica after, and you get the font after it as well, was the name Switzerland had. It was the original name from the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's cool. So apparently CN is China, according to Brassic Time.
That's my.
There we go.
Okay.
Look at this. This is a learning opportunity. We're learning about forgotten watches and also country codes.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that was a good pick, Todd. And then Bobby, we're up with your.
Yeah.
This is the Cartier Roadster. Wow.
So another watch that was really popular in the subway trains of investment bankers in the early 2000s. I used to see these all the time. So they don't make this watch anymore. You can still find a lot of them out there. There's tons of them out there. They must have made millions of these things. But look, in pictures, I admit, okay, maybe not too appealing. You got a really crazy looking magnifier there, just an odd shape. But in person, they looked awesome. They were so, especially these chronos, the XL. I mean, like, if you had, you didn't have to have too big of a wrist to be able to pull these off, but you needed a bigger wrist. But they just look so cool. I got an opportunity to try on a couple of these back in the day, and I was just like, one of these days, I'm gonna pick one of these up. Nothing fancy movement-wise, right? But Cartier, just an awesome brand. I love Cartier watches. I do. I love the Roadster. I love the Santos, the Tank Americain. I love the what's the other one? The name's escaping me, but there's a couple of them that I really like and enjoy. And some of these you can find them for a song online. At various conditions, though. Just be aware of that. A lot of polish on some of these, but they were just such a great piece. And I think a lot of people they're hung up on the Roadster these days. I mean, not the Roadster, the Santos, right? So they forget about this piece, even though, like I said, it's discontinued. You can still get a lot. There's so many online you can still pick up, and I feel like. The condition of these, the longer, if you're in the market for one of these, right, which maybe not a lot of you guys are, because it is a tough pill, but if you're in the market, like now is the time to start getting them, because in about 5 years, 6 or 7 years, I could just imagine the condition of these are just they're not gonna hold up, right? So if you want one in good condition, I think you're at the ninth inning of that, 8th or 9th inning of getting one in really, really good condition, because in the next few years, these get worn, right, and they're gonna get beat up a little bit or more so, and so now's the time. Now's the time to pick one of these up.
Yeah, I feel I've never really seriously looked at these, but the second that I saw the crown, I remember straight away, because it's so distinctive, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
the crown.
It's not for everybody, but it's I love them. I love that.
Yes,
and you get 3-handers. You get 3-handers. You don't have to get chronos. They do come in smaller sizes. So
yeah, I like them too, Bobby. I'm with you on this. I like the straight like this. The roadsters are kind of like a little avant-garde kind of design. Yeah, I'm with you on it.
Yeah,
Mark, I bet you're not feeling it with the Romans.
If it didn't have the Romans, that's a cool watch. But it's I find the aesthetics with Roman numerals that large to be quite challenging personally.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Here you go. Oh,
yeah, there's some that don't have it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Indices, please. Indices, please. You don't need big numbers on a watch. You really don't.
Okay, look, it was the late 90s and 2000s where these things.
Well, this is yeah. I mean, I will never dispute that Cartier make watches that appeal to a lot of people, and they have the great history, and they make good watches. It's just like Rolex. I'm sorry, Bobby. I just don't like them.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Hey, look, Mark, I've moved away from Rolex. I've gotten rid of mine.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I mean, I still love the brand. And look, if somebody called me and said, "Hey, I can get you a GMT at retail. Do you want it?" I'm like, yes, of course I do. But I've moved on from Rolex, and I'm getting back to my German watch collecting roots. So there you go, Mark.
Awesome. Let's have a look. So we've got a couple that are coming in thick and fast from the audience. We've got Brassic Times.
There was one about the Hamilton electric watches earlier in the stream that we missed. Yeah. I just can't. T-Lux STE, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll go back to that one. Sorry, I missed that one. And yeah, Brassic Time saying the Transoceanic, which let's just see if we can find it. Oh yeah, there you go. Transoceanic chronograph. Oh, that is good looking, actually.
Yeah, that's good looking.
I love that case shape. That's a Speedmaster Mark II case shape. That's a wonderful case shape. That's a good one. Nice one, Brassic Time.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I do like that. 3,200. That's not bad either.
Yeah, what's the movement? Is it a?
Is it one of those?
Okay,
so it won't be one of the exploding movements that Pete had.
That's pretty good, actually. That's a really, really nice one. That's a good suggestion. And then we had. Yeah. I'm gonna have to look one of these up because I'm not quite sure. This is the Freestyle Shark Classic, which
is Shark the brand there, or
I think so. Do you know what? I wonder if this was like they basically redid these, didn't they? I think is this what you mean, Aaron? I think they redid these. These are like the digital watches, freestyle watches. Yeah. Original 80s watch. Yeah, maybe they've started redoing them. There was a brand that when we were kids in the night, well, not kids, but when I was a teenager in the 90s, was Animal. Animal, the surf brand, used to make watches. They were always sought after. Yeah, so good pick. So the other one was Hamilton, just the general Hamilton electric.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah. I'm pretty familiar with those. I mean, Hamilton did invent the first electric wristwatch. I'm almost certain that's correct. And in fact, the early, like Elvis Ventura, that was so famous, that was an electric. The problem is they were very delicate, and the mechanism really wasn't as robust as it should have been. And so it ultimately lost out to the tuning fork movements from Bulova, which were superior kind of construction idea, and then of course Quartz took over from there.
But it looks like Hamilton had some great designs. That's a nice one.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Some of the designs are just really gorgeous. Especially if you like that, that kind of era. I mean, you can see the Ventura there, and Hamilton's design this is almost, I would say, the apex of their design language at this time, not long before they became Swiss. Just some stunning examples that you.
I mean, the first one that Sam showed just goes to demonstrate that if you really want to, you can make a symmetry gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like the Thor watches, Ventura. There's other ones that Hamilton made. You're right. Hamilton was very good at like the one that's right next to that. Very good at asymmetric designs. Various sorts. Yeah, that one right there, Sam.
Yeah, awesome.
But that whole design language of asymmetry, unless you're looking at some of the weird independents, has gone, and it's so hard to get right. And even when you get it right, 90% of the people will hate it because you can't deal with asymmetry on a wristwatch. But get it right, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go next in. I'm keeping it 90s with mine. And this was a forgotten watch that was pioneering at the time, and that was the Swatch Beepwear Pager watch. I had one of these. I thought I was the absolute bee's knees with it. It came with a phone number, and it was a pager. This grill at the top, this sort of the lines here were actually the aerial for the pager. And you could dial it. I got one. It had a British Telecom number at the time. They didn't need SIM cards because it was a pager, so you didn't have to put a SIM card in it. But yeah, the number or the message, which was usually something spelled out rude because you could only use the numbers, was that's where the pager would come, and it really was super loud. The only problem with them is that they basically disintegrated. Mine disintegrated. They took one of the big batteries, the CR2023s or whatever, and they would last about a week. Especially if the pager went off, it would just drain it. But yeah, that's I'm keeping it 90s. Did anyone else see one of these? Or bonus points for the Seiko also made a pager watch. I think Timex made a pager as well. Watch.
I can't say I mean, I think you and I are roughly grew up in the same time. I just. Yep. Maybe these didn't make it to the state. I don't know. I don't remember this at all.
Yeah. Anybody else remember these? No joke. They came in loads and loads of different colors. There was somebody. Yeah. So if you see here, somebody's selling an entire collection, but there was multiple. Oh, that's a bit bad picture. But there was multiple different ones, multiple different finishes and bracelets and all sorts on them, straps. Yeah.
I mean,
anybody?
I know I was alive in the 90s, and this is the first time I'm seeing them. So
I wonder if any doctors or drug dealers had these as well.
Yeah. Well, just to keep it so that Todd's interested as well. Let me see. Oh, look at that. This is. I did a video on this Timex. It was a Timex beatwear. Sorry, not a Seiko, but Seiko did make one. But yeah, Timex made a Beepwear Pro. There you go. That was a pager watch. And Seiko, I'm sure Seiko made a pager watch.
They probably did. Seiko's done about everything you could put into a watch at one point. TVs.
There you go. This was it. The receptor message.
Now these
watch.
I remember. These I do remember.
Yeah. This is just they were really cool because this was obviously before mobile phones, wasn't it? The only way of communicating was through not communicating, but that you would send a pager message and then you'd have to go to a phone to call it. I think everybody I don't know why I'm explaining this. I'm sure everybody in the chat knows exactly what I'm talking about. But yes, so Swatch Beepwear is my great watch that was forgotten. Okay, and we're back around to Mark. And Mark, this is yours. This is the is this the right one? The Portofino.
This is the right one. Yes. Awesome. When we think of IWC, what watches do we think of?
Pilots.
We think of the big pilots.
Yeah, the perpetual calendar, which is gorgeous.
Maybe if you spend, as I do, far too long looking at watch websites, you might hear about the Portuguesa.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But the Portofino who even knows this line exists? I'd heard of them, and then a few weeks ago, I realized that an IWC boutique had opened fairly near me, so I went in mainly to see if they had the 41mm Mercedes AMG chronograph, which they did. But then I saw this, and I'm thinking, I'm thinking that's a nice piece of watchmaking, and it's from a range of watches that doesn't get the attention it deserves, and I have no idea if this is a good selling range for them, because all the Instagram attention, the social media attention is on the sport type watches and the pilots watches. But it's worth taking a look at IWC for things just that you don't normally hear about, and just how far up the autorology ladder they can go when they feel like it.
Ooh,
yeah, there you go, 13,400.
I've never karat gold though, right?
It's it's their version of red gold, and it's a stunning piece. But who even knows that IWC can do this? We get so lost in the pilot watches that just once in a while I was sitting there going, well, if I had the money and wanted a dress watch, that's a stunning piece on wrist. But who knows that Portofino exists as a range? Yeah. So I thought I'd just bring that up and say, if you like dress watches, take a look at IWC.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Okay, so next, actually, we might be at, well, unless anybody's got anyone off the fly, I might be back round to me. Let's have a look. What did I pick? Let me just check what I picked before I flash it up.
Yeah,
by the way, Mark, that has Romans on it. What's up with that?
Yes, I know.
But only two.
There are only two, and they work with the design. They are not the design. It's like my Christopher Ward Moonface. That's got Romans on it, but they are part of the design. They are not the only design. And Boracic Time, he's got another good point. The Tudor 1926 line.
Okay.
And they've got another classic line. I was going through Tudor thinking, well, what did Tudor make that's not the Royale or the Pelagos or the Black Bay? And they've got 4 or 5, maybe 6 different lines of watches, and we only ever hear about 3. And the 1926, not a watch for me, but I bet you're in countries outside the US and the UK, they sell a lot of these.
Well, Mark, I think that's a good point. I was about to bring that up. I know some of these other models of that in the Tudor catalog that we may not know because we're just so focused on Black Bay, right? That in Asia, I know that the Royales are very, very popular, and I'm thinking maybe that's where IWC, where the Portofino really, because I've been aware of the Portofino as well as the Portuguese, of course, but I don't know anybody who's owned a Portofino. So maybe like in outside of other countries, maybe like East, in Asia and whatnot, those watches sell. I mean, you figure they gotta sell. They're still in the lineup, right? So who you're in the business of putting out a good product and making money, right? So you're not going to put out something that nobody buys. So I'm guessing there's probably other markets that know about the Portofino way more than UK and the US.
And the other thing is that they probably don't make many of them. They maybe make a batch every couple of years and spread them around the world. There's a lot of watches like that we can see, but they don't make many of them. But that Portofino, when I saw it, I was quite taken with it.
So it's Cedar Canoe, who's he's actually one of my longest subs. So thanks for watching us live. He's saying that the problem with IWC is they're not honest about their movements. Everything is called in-house, while a big part is rebadged ETA. I know there's other brands that get their wrists slapped about this, isn't there? But isn't IWC, they take the base ETA movement and then pretty much replace almost everything, or is that I know Braemont definitely did this, but I'm not sure IWC. Anybody?
I don't know. I'm not a big follower of.
We need Dave on,
of
don't we?
IWC. I mean,
Look-
IWC can certainly make their own in-house high horology
Right.
movements.
They are guilty of charging a lot of money for rebranded
Yeah.
ETA movements
Yeah.
for sure. They've been guilty of that, and not saying part. And I agree with exactly what Baresic Time or Cedar Canoe is talking about. I'm sorry, is they would say it's in house, but they wouldn't ever divulge that it was based upon an existing ETA movement of some sort.
Mm.
And that's the piece that's been deceptive by them.
I think Bill Sanders really called them out on it a couple of years ago. I recall that. And look, I did. There's other brands that are guilty of it. I use
Braemont.
watch. There's Watchbase, right? Go to Watchbase. You know what I mean? You can go to watchbase.com and you can go on IWC's tab and you can find out what these actually watches are based out of. Now, I have no problem with some of these brands using like a base ETA, right? I think where it gets a little cloudy is like, what kind of work are they doing on it? You have the cover with a case back. You don't know what's going on under the hood. I think if you could do a little research, you can figure this kind of stuff out. If you're interested in it, right? If you're interested in doing that, right? And now IWC has more of its real in-house movements, or more so in-house movements in some of their watches now. So you have that, and that's where you see a huge markup on the pricing, right? But Watchbase is a really good source for this, at least to find out like what at least it's based on.
Yeah, that's a great cheers, Cedar Canoe.
Isn't there also, is it Caliber Corner? There's something
Yeah,
like
Caliber
that.
Corner is another one. Yep.
Yeah, Caliber Corner is another good one.
I use both of them for doing the research on when I'm doing research and reviews and stuff, because it is fascinating actually. Okay, my next one, I've kept it sort of, maybe this is more 80s than 90s, but the LCD Speedmaster. And they made a few of these as well. It wasn't just this particular shape, but I mean, I'm amazed that that's $5,000 worth now.
Yeah,
I know
I know
Sean who watches the show, he's got one of the more square traditional ones, but yeah, I've seen one of these in person. I've seen the one that is the quartz one that has the sort of the. I'll find it, but I'll find it while I ask the questions. Anyone else seen these before?
I have, but only in pictures. I must admit that quartz Speedmaster, I rather liked that. I'm not sure I like it at $5,000, but that's a nice looking watch.
Yeah, this was the one I've seen in person. The guys over at, I don't know if they still got it, but Orlando Watch Company, they have one of these for sale, I think. But yeah, it was I think this is quite a wild time for Omega. I'm kind of glad that they did this, but there's a few different ones that I don't know how long the line ran, but it was it definitely did a few
the
more.
big anti-digi era, which I think was kind of out of the late 80s, early 90s, when all these anti-digi watches were coming.
1977. This one, wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a regular digital.
The sort of analog digital type watches.
Yeah.
Particularly watches where you had analog hands, but they were an LCD, were definitely a late 70s, early 80s phenomenon.
Oh, this one's interesting, isn't it? It's got like a sort of almost a sound bar at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not bad, is it? 977 for that one. Even I didn't know. I haven't been down this far down the rabbit hole. Maybe that round one is more of the classic one. That's why that's expensive. But
I think the round one was authorized for space travel. I believe that one is.
Oh, that's why.
Almost certainly not authorized for extravehicular activity.
Probably not EVA. I'm not certain.
Yeah, well, the LCD will go black because of the temperature. LCDs can't take low temperature.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I have a special Casio G-Shock that's low temp. Supposedly it works pretty far down. I don't know how far, but yeah.
4 Kelvin?
4 Kelvin. You
temperature
do
of
get some
space.
warmth from maybe from the
If
space
you're in the
heat, I
sun,
don't
yes.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is actually. I might have to put that in the old. I like my
that
LCD. I
one.
might have to put it favorite that one. Awesome. Okay, so then let's have another look here. I think we're actually, unless anybody's got one on the fly here, we're back round to Mark again because Mark.
I just threw a bunch of stuff at Sam. Just something will stick.
So this is the Vash. This is a similar vein to the.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of the blue dial, but that's a great
okay.
example.
Let's have a look then. Here we go.
Gorgeous.
And there is a date wind, but throw this out to the people in the comments. If someone says Vacheron Constantin to you, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah, there's like
Overseas?
the overseas stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
So last year, the Scottish watches writers in New York, New Jersey, did a very long day looking at watches, and we rolled into Vacheron Constantin on fifth or sixth, and do you have the overseas? Nah, sold out. So my feet were tired, so I just sat down at the first display cabinet I saw, and it was the Patrimony watches. Thinking Vacheron Constantin, Patrimony, never heard of them. But that's if you want a very slim, very elegant dress watch.
Right. I was going to suggest too.
I was just glad I didn't bring my credit card that day.
Yeah. GP makes the 1966 line, and they have a watch that looks almost identical to that mark.
Yeah.
Well,
this is with Vacheron and with GP. This is their answer, quote unquote, answer to the Calatrava, right? And these are very beautiful watches. I've seen these in person before. Really, really stunning in person. I mean, they look great in pictures, but Mark, you can attest to seeing them in person. You're like, wow, this is really, really, really nice.
He's super thin.
Red gold, precious metal cases will always put the price up, but
Yes.
you could pretty much feel why it costs that much. And I'm normally a cynic about the price of the Holy Trinity, but you could, that one, it was just like, I don't have the money, but I wish I did. Yeah,
awesome.
And it was there. Yeah. There's a date version, and you sit there, go, well, the date, it doesn't need a date. It doesn't need an automatic movement. It just needs to be that. Anything you add to that takes away.
Awesome. Let me just see if I don't know if I've got another one. Let me see if I've got another one. Oh yes, yeah. So I've got one more. And this is the Tradition watch. Is it? I mean, I've given it away there, but has anybody heard of Tradition, the brand?
Nope.
So this was Hoya back in the day when they could only sell to the US. I forget the reason why, but they could only sell the movements to the US, and they had to be recased as not Hoya. This Tradition is Sears, the department store's own brand. Yeah. So this is a Tradition. This is basically a Sears own brand watch with a Hoya chronograph movement in it.
Amazing.
So it's actually basically a Hoya Carrera, but it branded as Sears and Roebuck.
That's right. I remember this now. Yep. There was an embargo going on of some sort against the Swiss watch industry to protect the American watch industry, which did not work, obviously. Yeah,
incredible. And I think the was it Abercrombie and Fitch watch, I think, had a Hoya in it, and there was a few different. In fact, it actually says it here. It says somebody's actually put it here. So where are we? Zodiac had them in, Tradition, and a few others. Yeah, really interesting time. They do go for. There was a time you could get them on eBay, but the people have cottoned onto it now, and they are expensive on eBay now. Cool. And then Mark, your last one here. The Gundam.
Oh, the Gundam. Oh yes.
The Gundam.
It's a basic Casio watch with titanium armor on it and etched titanium armor, but it was lovely. And this is the one that had the I think there was a pinkish purple titanium version of it. I don't know this is quite the right version. I should have sent you a picture, Sam.
Yeah, there's a camouflage one, isn't there? There's one with a negative display with camouflage, but I think this was the first one.
And where did they go? I mean, they were $1,800 when they were launched. They're still $1,800. You get them from Japan. I like them, but I don't like them $1,800. But like a lot of the special edition Casios, they make waves for 5 minutes and then they're gone. And this one I just threw into the mix.
Yeah, these square titaniums, they sell out pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
And if you have the chance to pick one up, like I've had several of these, right? I had the Digicamo, which I think it was like the second one made. I think the first one was the quote unquote stealth wealth, looked like just like a regular G-Shock that you would get from like Amazon, right, with the resin, but it was actually titanium and had the sapphire glass on it. If they dip under 1,000, pick it up because you won't see that. You saw that maybe a year or two ago. I don't know if you're going to see that now. You might, but pick them up because they do well. They hold their value. They hold their value. Like if you get tired of it, they're great watches. They're such great watches.
Yeah, and it's one of the few watches I wear my watches all the time. They get that's the puppy. That's the one.
Yeah, look, you can still buy. You could buy. Well, I mean, can you buy it now? 1,700.
I don't think so.
Oh dear! I think I might have done it. Hang on.
Yeah. You'd be rewarded with your patience, though, if you go in a secondary market.
Yeah, I better not do that in case it flashes up with
but, you know, sort of, I wear my watches. They are the classic desk divers. The clasps get ruined. I really wouldn't want to ruin the clasp on that last watch that Sam showed. It's like, you know, people are afraid of wearing their Rolex if they get a scratch.
It's a little.
If I had one, I just wear it because scratches are part of the life of a watch. But something like that, it's an unexpected work of art, and I really wouldn't want to scratch it.
Well, Mark, as one who owns several of these, they're a little bit tougher than what you think. You know, so you know, my wife's took mine a couple years ago when she saw it. She's like, "Oh, that's mine now," and she wears it pretty often, and it still looks good. It still looks pretty new.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah. Otherwise, my trick is screen protector film on the clasp.
Yeah. This is the one you want. It's got the rubber strap, but this is the kind of the stealth one. This has got all of the features except Bluetooth, and it is a metal bezel, even though it looks like it's resin. This is the one you want. The 300. If you want to get into a square G-Shock. Anyway.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, well, that was really cool. That was a really cool show. Yeah, thanks for everyone's audience participation. And yeah, thanks for the panel. Bobby, thanks for your first time. Yes. Hopefully first of many.
Pleasure to meet you, Bobby.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you guys.
Cool. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk Live.